Yo, hey y'all. I didn't tell him I was gonna say yo, but I did it. It is very hot in my office. Like normally I'm cold and my husband turned the air off and now I regret it. Hey y'all, how you doing? Very good. So we're back for another kickback. I'm really excited. I'm going to wait for all of you to join. Um, and I'm going to wait for all of you to tell me where you are tuning in from. I'm excited because this having a panelist like this is really important. As you can tell, we are all women of color, and I love it. And the reason for that is because we all want to make sure that you all see that we are very prominent in this space, whether it's tech, whether it's insurance, in in general, HR has a lot of women of color, and we want to be able to show you a representation of yourself. So whether you are Hispanic or whether you are just a woman in general, or whether you are African American, Indian, or whatever is covered under being a person of color, we want you to be able to be represented. Hey y'all, I see all y'all commenting at the same time. Look at y'all. Blessed assurance. Okay, I see ATL, I see Chicago, I see North Carolina, I see Connecticut, I see a bunch of places. Okay. Oh, I see Philly. Hallelujah, holla back. 267 or 215. You gotta tell me what your area code is. You ain't gotta say your whole phone number because that's definitely like PII. But just tell me what your area code is. Because if it's 215, I'm rocking with you. If it's 267, I'm also rocking with you. Either way, I'm rocking with you. So we are going to get started. I'm going to ask my panelists to introduce themselves. I'm going to be putting their LinkedIn links in the chat as they are talking and answering your questions. So please feel free to duplicate your screens so that you don't have to leave the live in order to connect with them and send them any questions you have. You all know I always say that after the after the event is the time for them to actually go through their inboxes after you sent them questions. Please, I know y'all gonna bombard their inboxes because these are recruiters who want to help you, but give them grace. Recruiter Cousin is asking you to give them grace so that they can go through their inboxes because we get a lot of them, quite a bit. We get a bunch of questions, quite a bit. So I'm going to ask Kayla to introduce herself.
Absolutely. So, my name is Kayla. I'm based here in San Diego, California, and definitely have recruiting experience across a variety of industries, but currently sit in the insurance industry.
Isabel.
Hey everyone, I'm Isabel. I have over 5 years of recruiting experience across a number of different global leaders, have worked in everything from early talent all the way to executive search and in between across a number of different functions. So yeah, I've seen recruiting through and through, but I'm excited to connect with everyone.
Also, I don't know if y'all caught this, but Isabel was on Tech is the New Black. So make sure you go to Tech is the New Black and you watch her episode. She definitely was dropping a lot of gems. So make sure you go to that episode. Danielle.
Hello, beautiful people. My name is Danielle, and I have a very unique background. Is that I was in higher ed for about 10 plus years. I did recruiting for them, and I am currently working at a nonprofit, also doing recruiting, and have moved myself through the ranks. I also teach on the side financial literacy. So, very passionate. Started investing at age 19. So, I'm trying to teach the people. So, yeah.
Y'all see how she like just casually said she was in recruiting for 10 plus years, knowing she ain't cracking nowhere. Cause she don't look like she can admit that she's been recruiting for 10 plus years. And did y'all like hear how she subtly ran her resume? She was like, yeah, I kind of like pushed my way through and here we are. I love the humility. Go ahead, Anna.
Danielle setting the tone, all the ladies. But hi everyone, my name is Anna. I am from Chicago, Illinois. My background is actually in engineering. I have a bachelor's in ag and bioengineering. Never went that way. Went into recruiting for tech, anything from sourcing to closing. And lastly, I was a program manager. So now I'm doing a lot of contracts and a lot of PMing.
Love it. If y'all go to Anna's page, you will see that she has experience in big tech. You will see the specific company. So she knows some stuff, just FYI. Okay, y'all. So we are going to get into the first question. I want to start with Kayla. Kayla, what is everyone's preferred resume format? As in summary or no summary, skills section, education, etc.?
Yeah, so I feel like this could be very subjective, so feel free if you have a differing opinion, but I prefer a pretty standard format. Not really a summary because I know exactly what if you're applying for the job, I know that you're interested in the job. So I don't really need a summary. In the line of work that I do, education is very important to put on that resume, including a graduation date, as well as important skills and projects and accomplishments. Because if you are early in your career, you might not have that work experience that is needed. So I definitely prefer a pretty standardized format.
Love that. Isabel?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think like to Kayla's point too, it really depends on the type of role you're recruiting for. So I think for me, I actually do appreciate a summary section. And this is where like every recruiter is different, every role is different. For me, what stands out about the summary section, it's just like a good frame up of who you are as a professional. So I can usually go to your summary section or even like your LinkedIn about section and just get the quick facts. If it helps me to kind of encapsulate who you are in just like brief, quick sentences. So it's a way to like call out just quick skills, quick achievements, quick competencies. And it just kind of frames up the rest of your profile. So I like to think of it as like your Instagram bio. You know, when you click on somebody's Instagram, you see all the little things about them. And a lot of that may determine whether or not you even continue scrolling and clicking the follow page or clicking the follow button on their page. So yeah, it again, to Kayla's point, it depends on the role, to be honest. But I like summary. It helps me to decide who I actually want to continue looking at their profile.
And I just want to add to part of what I see a lot of people do on their resumes is they have a skill section, whether it's at the top or the bottom. I personally prefer a skill section at the top so I can have a quick look at kind of what you're good at, and like right there. What I see though is that a lot of people put their skill section at the top and they list the skills, which are great, but they don't tell us where they apply those skills. So we don't always know, like if it's, say, for example, if it's program management, we don't always know like the specific tools that you might have used within program management. And if it is listed, we don't know where you use them. So I would say to incorporate those hard skills into the job responsibilities that you've listed under each part of your experience, so we understand how many years of experience you have with that specific tool or within that specific discipline. Anna, let's go to you. How do we get into the tech field without any work experience at a tech company? That's the major question.
Ooh, I can go so many ways. Some of the ladies can piggyback right here, but although I had an engineering degree, I never ever had any kind of like tech internships or experience. I dabbled in like policy and just like nonprofit stuff, and it kind of like derailed, and it had nothing to do with tech. And it comes down on leaning on others and your network. And I know we say that all the damn time, but it's really true. At the time I was working at a nonprofit, that nonprofit got a lot of funding from like the Googles and the Army and like just a lot of different companies. And I started to get my name out there through those companies. And even though I didn't know anyone at my first bank company, it was my background there and being able to get that referral from people that just knew my work. And the same thing for other places in my career. It was through a lot of referrals. So that network, getting one-on-ones with people at the companies that you want, even the positions that you're looking for. Like, hey, I want to know more like what it's like to have that position, and would you mind submitting a referral for me? So I think that's a really big one. Another big one is like transferable skills. One of the odd jobs that I had per se was I was a program secretary at a physical therapy clinic. I went for physical therapy. I saw that nobody was there catering to the Spanish speaking community, signed myself up to work there. And when I interviewed for one of the recruiter roles, they say, what do you have to offer? And do you know how to do cold calls? Because as recruiters, a lot of the times you're calling hundreds of people a week. And I was like, oh yeah, I have to do that with patients at the clinic. Some don't pick up, some don't want to pay, some ask me to reschedule 10 times a week. So a lot of those skills transferred over, and not being kind of ashamed or wary of not bringing all that experience with you. All of your experience is great experience, and it can translate to the tech world.
I love that. I want to add quickly what I did to get into tech. Honestly, it wasn't anything that at least I would categorize as special. Like I didn't do something specific. I just went after a position that I had experience in within tech, which would be a non-technical role. So I pivoted industries, but within my same role. And so I try to tell people, if you want to try to pivot industries, you want to get into tech and you don't have tech experience, then pivot. If you're a salesperson, try to pivot into the retail part of tech, or try to pivot into, let's say you are an accountant. Try to pivot into the financial side of tech, so that you can get your feet wet in tech, and then you can explore opportunities that you want to do. So that's what made it easy for me. Danielle, I'm coming to you. I'm sorry, I'm not coming to you. My apologies. And I'm sticking with you. Should I get a certification in PM or project management?
So you asking me, Anna?
No, I'm sorry, Anna.
Let's see. I'd say if you can, plain and simple, yes. Certifications are always great. And mostly now that we see a lot of PM roles and they're required or preferred, they say, hey, do you have a PMP? If you have the ability to, the time to, I know they're not easy certifications, I'd say do it. I'm one of those folks that started my journey and I got all my credits, and then I never sat for the exam because I was a little burnt out, right? But I know that that's something that I want to go back to, because a lot of the roles do say PMP preferred, PM certifications preferred. Like, they do make you stand out, and they do help you along the way a lot in terms of like technical terms and just how you learn and how you apply that to the role. So you don't have to, but if you can, I'd say go for it.
Love that. You're getting a lot of love in the chat about just the mindset of being able to overcome imposter syndrome. So amazing, gems. Danielle, now I'm coming to you. What is the best time or times of year to seek new job openings?
That's a good question. So I think it depends on the industry, right? I was like, you'd have some, based off of my research, is like, let's do August or September, right? They say that's when the hiring normally happens. But I honestly would say it depends on you and your life cycle. So if we have, for example, parents, we know that August is probably a crazy time. You try and get kids back to school, get them into a routine, so on and so forth. And so maybe August is not the time for you to onboard in a new job. So I truly think it depends on what's happening in your life. And I know we'll get to this a little bit later on, but it's extremely important to network, because you never know when jobs are coming available that you're looking for. So that's what I would probably say.
Okay, so I'm about to put up a live question, just because of the basis of the conversation. I don't want to miss this question. It's a really good question. Let me get to it. Question: how should I approach recruiters on LinkedIn to know about certain positions? Anyone can start.
Oh, I'll chime in, because I'm sure we all
All of us got different pieces of advice. Okay.
So I'll say this, and I can only speak for what I see Shanae doing. Shanae is great. Shanae is one of the few recruiters who will actually respond to her audience. And I wish that was a representation of how we all were, but I like to give people context. So a recruitment process can begin and end. It begins with launching the role. It ends with closing out the role. We can be doing that for 7 to 10, some of us 15, 20, depending on the volume of recruiting we're doing. So I always tell people, in as much as I would love to respond to every email I get, sometimes it's just literally impossible. And I think there's a way to be strategic about the type of recruiter or who you're reaching out to. So something that I typically do whenever people ask me for advice, or I'm working with a client, just on a side business, I'll tell them to look at the job description. Look at, most times, the title of the team is mentioned in the job description. So if you can pull a couple of different profiles of members on that team, it doesn't even have to be a recruiter, y'all. I tell people, it's kind of like you can stand 3 hours in line for a club, or you can know the security guard at the back who can let you in for free. So I think of recruiters, us being the people that you got to stand in a long line just to talk to, when there's other key players in a recruiting process that can potentially get your foot in the door. A lot of time, and I know this is specifically about recruiters, but I kind of want to redirect thinking around who to reach out to when you're interested or you want to express interest in a role. So for every hiring process, there's a hiring manager, you have a couple of interviewers, you have team members who may not even actively be on the interview panel, but would be willing to share their referral link. You have sourcers. There's so many people at play. And so I think it's like reframing our mind to go beyond the recruiter, because a lot of times we just don't have the time to respond back, and try to find those people who are more likely to answer because their inboxes are not as flooded. So yeah, I'll just say a little tip. And then another thing too, when reaching, if you really want to reach out to the recruiter, I think prefacing it with knowing that there's hundreds of jobs posted at any given moment in any company. So a lot of the times we may not be assigned to that requisition that you're asking about. We may not even know what that team does, to be quite honest. And it's kind of like shooting in the dark. So you can kind of get a feel for the type of recruiting a recruiter does. For example, I know Shanae recruits a lot for in the tech space, so like technical roles, engineers, etc. I, on the other hand, I've listed out on my profile that I do a lot of non-technical recruiting. So I wouldn't reach out to me for an engineer role. I would probably reach out to me for like a social media marketing or something like that. So it's just kind of getting a feel for the type of recruiting they do. Everyone is specialized. Some teams do cover a broad number of functions. So, but yeah, just being strategic and also, thinking about other key players in the recruiting process that could get you into.
Shanae, can I comment real quick?
Please, by all means.
So, it's after 5, right? So I'm just gonna be real. So as said previously, we get a whole lot of inboxes. I do, and I try to as best I can respond. However, and I know LinkedIn is trying to help folks be successful by giving you a canned, like reaching out to recruiters. I don't know what it is, but literally I'm getting the same exact messages from like hundreds of people, and it says the same thing. And so if you want to get my attention out of the hundreds, I want you to ask me a question that's not on my website. And I want you to ask me a question that's not in the job description. Because if you're asking me that,
I hate to cut you off, but you said that so much nicer than I would have. I'm working on it. Okay, go ahead.
It's a process, right? So that's all I'm going to say, right? And again, I'm going to try to respond, but I am more likely to respond if it's not the canned response that I get from everybody else. So you can stand out from the crowd. And the other piece too is do your research beforehand. If it's not like I had a gentleman, we have a lot of remote positions. My company is based pretty much 100% remote. And so he had a question. He said, hey, I'm traveling somewhere for a month out of the country. I'm looking to apply for this job. Can I do this out of the country? Now, that's a great question. It's not on our website anywhere. It's not in the job description. So I can answer that because you took time to do the research. So that's all I'm going to say. Those are my 2 cents on reaching out to recruiters.
I will say this. The question that I get that, I can't say that, Shanae, it's not nice. The question that I get that requires research is, what do you recruit for? And it's literally on my LinkedIn. And it's next to my name, actually. So when we get questions, like even if it's something as simple as that, when we get questions like that, that lets us know the level of research that you're willing to go to stand out. As simple, and that may sound like, and I understand, I've had many people call me out about, well, you just can answer the question, and I can also say, but you can just go do your research and figure it out. Mm-hmm. Right? If I respond like that, I'm rude. So and that's keeping it in the buck. If we as recruiters say, go on my page and go figure it out, if we say that, we're rude. I had somebody say to me, well, apparently I didn't do research, so that's why I'm asking you. And I said, ooh, the Lord, because who in the exactness, it's not a word, go with it, are you talking to? Like, it's the idea that sometimes it can come off as recruiters are supposed to do the work for you, and that's not true. And part of that is because we have so many hiring leaders, recruiting partners, sourcers, managers, directors, and candidates that we're all working with at the same time. So you all know, I tell you all that there's a difference between I tell you all the recruiter is the liaison between the candidate and the company. So we are the liaison between the candidate and the company. That means We are working with you and probably hundreds of other candidates, plus our hiring leaders, plus our directors, our managers, making sure we're compliant. There's a lot of components that go into recruiting. And so we just want to make sure you're prepared, and we can make sure we can do our best to try to help you get a better response rate. So when you ask questions, when you approach recruiters, going back to the original question, when you approach recruiters and you're trying to figure out what to say, I always say the best thing to say is, "Hi, my name is so-and-so. Thank you so much for even taking the time to read my message. I applied to your company, rec number 123456. Not really sure if you are assigned to this role, but if you are, do you mind taking a look at my resume in the system to determine if I'm the best fit? If not, if you're not the right person, I apologize. Do you mind sending my LinkedIn profile link over to the right person?" That's all we need. And part of that is because, trust me, we don't take it personal that you need something, because apparently you need something. And it's our job to try to provide that. But we just want to make sure that you all understand that there's a certain level of approach that you have to have with the recruiter, because it's the recruiter who has a relationship with the hiring manager. And there are many times where hiring managers will say, "So how was so-and-so in the first beginning stages of this process? Were they rude to you? Were they nice to you? How was that?" Because if you show us a different side and you show the hiring manager, and the hiring manager asks and we're honest, that hiring manager is going to trust us because we built a relationship with them. So I tell people all the time, as messed up, quote unquote, as you think that sounds, the recruiter can absolutely send a very rude message that you sent to them to a hiring leader and say, "This is what they said to me," when all we were trying to do was help. So, sorry, I went on a tangent. Anybody else? Very good. Okay, going back to the question. Kayla, I'm coming to you. How do you see recent tech advancements such as AI and automation impacting the recruitment process? What opportunities and challenges do they bring to both recruiters and job seekers?
Yes. So I absolutely love AI. I absolutely love the new automation that is coming through. With a lot of these recruiting process, it simplifies it a lot easier for recruiters. So essentially, you could just go on the website, speak to an AI chatbot, even about like, "Hey, I'm interested in this company," give them your resume, and then they can then pull roles for you about roles that would be best fits based on your resume. And even from then, it will automatically apply you for that exact role, which I really love because it's very simple. You can do it on your phone. Additional to that, no more AI scheduling systems, more ways of making it a lot easier. So maybe a recruiting coordinator wouldn't have to go through, find time on the hiring manager's calendar. That can all be automated now. So I absolutely love it. It has saved recruiters so much time from what I have seen as well. And yeah.
So I'm gonna add 2 cents in here.
Yep. Go ahead.
So I'm like, for my folks who are looking for a job, right? I know you are exhausted about writing. For those who require cover letters, everybody already says, like, make your cover letter specific. So I've had some candidates who want to use AI to help write their cover letter. And that's great. I am all for that. It saves time. Let's talk about when I was in college. I wish we would have had AI, because I would have been using a whole lot more. The one thing I will say, please do not copy literally from AI, ChatGPT, whatever, and apply. I can tell. It's obvious. It's got too many adjectives. Sentences don't make sense. It got the name wrong because you typed it in wrong for the title. So that's all I'm saying is use it, but I want you to read through it thoroughly, right? And make sure that it sounds like something you would say. Also, because I've had folks who write really great, articulate, and then when I screen them, it's a little different. There's a little dissonance between those two. So that's also another thing, is make sure you're putting it in what you consider to be your language.
I also want to add really quickly, you all noticed that Danielle said she screens them. I'm going to continue to debunk this myth that y'all think that the applicant tracking system, how do I beat it? There is no such thing. Here's the thing. If you apply into a company, and every company has an applicant tracking system, if you apply into a company and we have questions that say, do you have this many years of experience in this, or do you have a bachelor's degree in this, and you say no, you are admitting that you don't meet the minimum qualification for that role. So that is you saying, I don't qualify for this role. So the system is going to tell us you don't qualify. So it's not necessarily you beating it. It's more of you just admitting whether you meet the minimum qualifications or not. When it gets to us as recruiters, we actually do screen you. Like we actually go through manually each resume that comes into our, whether it's a bin, whether it's a column, or however the company refers to it as. We go through each resume to understand whether you actually do meet the minimum qualifications. So not only are you saying yes, I meet the minimum qualifications on this role when you apply to the role, but we as recruiters will actually also go through to vet you. And if you don't meet the minimum qualifications based on what we're looking at and what the hiring manager put on the job description, you don't. So just FYI, I wanted to chime in with there. We also are talking about AI. I want to mention there are free AI platforms that you all can use to help in your job search, and I will put them in the chat. Isobel, go.
Yeah, I was also going to say shameless plug as well. If anyone of you are familiar with Tech is the New Black or Cyrus Harbin, which most of you all might be because Shanae was on his podcast, he did just launch a really dope AI tool that revamps your skills section in your resume and applies to over 300 jobs a month on your behalf. And so really dope platform. I can also drop it in the chat if anyone is interested. I do have an affiliate code that you can use for some dollars off. So
Yeah, I was about to say that means discount code, y'all. So money off, man, definitely help. And I'm going to drop some free platforms in here as well, where these platforms are very useful. They may not do as much as Octoply, but they are still very useful to have. So make sure you're using the AI, but you're also manually job searching as well. So you have the AI working on your behalf, but you also have yourself working on your own behalf, manually searching. So nobody picked this question, but I think it's important to answer. How does one bypass not having a FANG or Ivy League background when applying to FANG or Ivy League or similar companies? I am a product of not having a FANG background, nor do I have an Ivy League background. I am a proud graduate of St. Augustine's University, which is an HBCU, and another proud graduate of North Carolina Central University School of Law, which is also another HBCU. I had never worked in FANG before I worked in my current company. My background was in legal, then higher education, then healthcare, and now tech. So there is no such thing as I will not get into a company because I don't have a certain background. I am from a poor neighborhood in Camden, which is Camden, New Jersey. It's considered poor to a lot of people. I think it's very rich, but what the world would call a poor Black neighborhood. And I am from a high school that was probably number 50 out of 52 districts, so very low on a totem pole. I graduated with honors from college, graduated from law school. Let me make that distinction. And I'm also a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, which is a minority-based organization. Saying all that to say, not one part of what I said is Ivy League related, nor is it Ivy League background, nor is it or FANG or anything like that. Doesn't matter where you come from. What matters is you work hard to get to where you want to go. We all know that it says, yes, Kayla. We all know that it says the saying is no matter where you come from, it's how you end. No matter where you start, it's how you end. You know what I'm talking about. Either way, it's really important for you all to understand that your level of confidence is going to be within yourself, not where you've come from. And so for me, for all of you who ask, how do you get this confident? Homie did not get this overnight. There were many days that I struggled with imposter syndrome and all kinds of things of how I looked and sometimes how I dressed, or the friends that I hung around, the not even passing the bar for 3 times that I've taken it, being a job seeker for 4 years with a law degree, and having even a pastor tell me that he did not want me to be his secretary because he thought that I was going to think that I could tell him what to do with his church. When you have people who says certain things to you, that should be a fuel. Like that should do something to you in your shanana. So it did something to my shanana, just FYI. Go ahead, Kayla.
Yes. So previously, when I worked with FANG, I absolutely had no background in technology before I transitioned into a technical recruiter. Basically, I started at the ground level right out of college, area manager, and then transitioned through talent shares, transitioned through short-term assignments into that career path. It was very easy once you've put your foot in the door with the company to then just move quickly into another role because they do internal mobility. So that is definitely something to take a look at.
Love that. Okay, Danielle, I'm coming to you. How to create and maintain contact with a recruiter when you're not quite sure if you're ready to leave your current role? Good question.
That's a really great question. So I would say a couple things. One, for example, if I'm trying to get into a job potentially with Shanae, because she's real cool, and I'm like, man, I would want to work right either with her in her same company. I'm going to follow her. Then I'm also going to use a little bell at the top. So anytime Shanae posts anything, I'm liking it, I'm commenting it. If she has a role that she's trying to get filled, guess what? I am reposting it, even though it may not apply to me. Right. And so, believe it or not, as we've talked about before, we have a lot of folks who reach out to us, but I notice, especially there's two individuals right now who I know are looking for into my company. They're always the first to like. They're always the first to comment. They'll share on something. It could be nothing recruiter related, right? But they're making 2 cents and adding to it, right? So I would say that's probably one way to do that. I would go to almost all one of her lives. I would be commenting, doing those types of things. So keep having your name at the top of the list. So once I see a role that I may want, then I'm going to apply. And then I also reach out to her, right? Hey, I've been following you for the last year. I've done these types of things, and I'm excited to potentially work with you. So I would say those are just a few examples that I have seen and done myself that have worked really, really well.
I'll also piggyback too. Yeah, I think, what Danielle said is spot on. And really, like, just establishing a personal connection is so key. Like, I always tell people, yeah, we work in these big companies. A lot of us are, working on different products or service lines or doing or providing some sort of like high level deliverable. But at the end of the day, we're all human beings, and nobody wants to feel like they're talking to a robot. Nobody wants to feel like they're being sucked, like just the life is sucked out of them. So recruiting is often a thankless job. And we're all getting paid by God's grace when we do recruit, but I think it also feels good to just say, hey, I appreciate you. And I see a lot of the love that y'all show Shanae. And I think that's so awesome because Shanae truly is somebody who I know, like in a recent post, Shanae, you talked about how like you don't consider yourself to be an expert. Oh my gosh. All right.
I can't always be serious. I gotta laugh.
Girl, I'm trying to be sentimental.
No, I appreciate it. I'm receiving it. Go ahead.
But as you see, we're just human beings. And I think like establishing a personal connection will always set you apart. Going beyond the, hey, can I have a referral link? Hey, what's new in the company? Hey, what are the new requisitions that you have open? To, hey, Isobel, or hey, Shanae, or hey, Kayla, hey, Danielle, hey, Anna. Just wanted to say, like, I'm sure recruiting is really hectic right now, seeing how the market is swinging. Just want to say, like, hey, hang in there. How are things at Microsoft? How are things here? How are things there? Just, just making those connections. I promise you, it's so rare that if you do that, it will set you apart. A lot of people are hungry, and I get the hunger. Like, we're all trying to land that job, but in the midst of the hunger, don't forget to be a human being. It's the little things. Kindness matters. And so, yeah, it's something that you would think is so commonplace, but I kid you not, I'm sure if all of us open our LinkedIn inboxes or our emails and we go through like the candidate reach outs we've gotten, it's all very much so consumer based. Like, hi, I'm looking for this. I saw you have this posted. Would love to learn more. Okay, but I'm having a bad day. Does anybody care? And I'm not saying you have to care, but again, just the same sentiment you would express if you're reaching out to a family member to just check in, or I'm not looking for somebody to pet my. I hope this is coming off right, because I'm certainly not looking for you guys to like soothe or appease my emotions. But again, just that personal connection. It'll take you a lot further than what you think. So
yeah, I wanted to.
You're spot on. Go ahead, Anna.
On Isobel's point, you also follow those candidates of yours. For example, I recruited at different companies for different things. I started my career in recruiting, just recruiting for pure like senior software engineers. I haven't done that in the past 2 years. But if I see anything senior software engineer, I still remember those candidates who I had a really close relationship with in the past. And it doesn't matter where you go, if I'm not recruiting anymore, if I have any other career, you remember those folks. So I remember that person, they were UI UX, or they were data engineer. Oh, maybe I should just tag them on this post. So it does follow you a long way.
Absolutely. I want to piggyback off an honest point because there are many times when, like, even if someone that if I place in my current company, if that person whether that person decides to ping me on Teams or whether that person decides to send me a DM on LinkedIn, I can literally tell that they're hungry to continue to move up and grow. And so the fact that they know they can come to me, even if they've already gotten their job within the company and now they want a little bit more insight, how to move around, what's protocol, what's not protocol, what's okay. Like the fact that they have questions and they still feel comfortable enough to come to me and ask questions is an honor for me. So I absolutely love that. I also want to point out, I can't remember if it was Isobel or Danielle that said it, but I want to point out the fact that the consistency of showing up. I think it was Danielle. So the consistency of showing up, whether that be on someone's live or whether that be on an event, so on and so forth. So I'm going to take a few people out of the comments, for example. Tamara is someone I talk about all the time because this girl shows up to everything. She is on my lives. She's on my pop-up question sessions. She's in my comments. She gets on me if I go to her city and I don't say nothing. I like legit, and I have never met this woman in person, but she shows up. Part of that is because she doesn't want to be forgotten. Same thing with Nicole Batts. Same thing with Marquise. There are so many different people that come in on Ashley Larry. Same thing. So many people that come in on our lives all the time that if you find a role and Isobel is the recruiter for that role or Danielle is the recruiter for that role and Tamara says, hey girl, so Isobel got a role and I don't really know Isobel like that, but can you put in a good word for me? It's a no-brainer. It's taking me 5 seconds. Isobel, Tamara says she need this role. Can you screen her real quick for me? It literally takes 5 seconds. I want you all to learn your languages as well, because I use this differently than other people. So I want to make sure I'm clear. A lot of you ask for recruiters for referrals. So there is a difference based on the recruiter you're talking to and the company that they work for on what a referral actually means. So a referral, like a basic default referral, is someone that we know. So if I refer you for a role, that means I have either worked with you or I know you personally. If I don't know you, but I send you over to my hiring leader or I send you over to a peer recruiter for them to evaluate you for their role, that's called a lead. So I want you all to know the difference. And I also want you to know that there are certain times when a recruiter, I'm one of these recruiters where we have a rule of thumb where we won't fill out an official referral form for you if we don't know you. Now, if you're a nice person, that's great. But filling out an official form is different from just sending your name over to a recruiter or hiring manager just to ask, hey, this person came across my LinkedIn. Do you mind, screening them or looking at their skill set to see if you're an ideal fit? So just keep that in mind when you're asking for a referral versus like, hey, do you mind just shooting my name over to the right person? So just wanted to make that clear. Moving on. Is there a way to compete against other candidates that may have more experience than me in a particular discipline? What are some intangibles that might make a person more appealing than someone who has more experience? Kayla, I'll go to you first.
Yeah. So you don't necessarily need, yes, you do need experience for the role that you're going for, but just because someone has more experience doesn't mean they're the right fit for the role. There are many times where what the hiring manager is looking for is personal. It'll always be in the job description, but what they're looking for is a certain skill, a certain, like, whether it's leadership, whether it is communication, and they're looking for that in your storytelling in the interview process that will set you apart from another candidate. Because somebody can have the best resume in the world, but if they can't convey that in an interview and they can't convey what the hiring manager is looking for, that's definitely not going to be beneficial for you to get that role. I can provide an example of I hired somebody onto my team as a hiring leader. Um, Something that had occurred is I had someone that had 15 years of experience, and I had somebody that came to me with one. And I hired the person with 1 year of experience versus the 15 years of experience because I was looking for someone that was willing to learn, someone that was willing to engage. And when I had that conversation with the 15-year experience one, they said they were set in their process, they knew what to do, they already knew what they were doing, and they had no interest in changing. And what that did is give me a red flag that, hey, maybe they're not a good fit because they're not willing to learn. So definitely, if you can convey that in an interview, I definitely say that's the next best thing is conveying those skills to those leaders.
Isabel, you want to chime in?
Yeah, I really like what you said, Kayla. And I think it just speaks to the scrappiness and agility that may come with a lot of smaller companies or somebody who's at a role or who's kind of newer in their role. A lot of the time when you're early in your position or you're early into your career, you're wearing a lot of different hats. You're touching a lot of different processes. And it's just all about knowing how to package yourself in a way that translates well to the recruiter, to the hiring manager. And so, yeah, to Kayla's point, talking to somebody who has years of experience but has become so set in how things are run, especially in this day and age where people are looking for people to like drive results quickly. People are looking for agility. People are looking for people who are really flexible, who can bend with the tide, and who have a lot of motion and scrappiness and just like that raw type of feel to them. Like people just want results, honestly, at this point. And so I think if you can really leverage a lot of the different hats you've worn, a little exercise I usually tell people to do is, let's say you're applying for a data analyst role, pull up like 5 to 7 data analyst live job postings across different companies. So just different companies that you may be interested in, and do a little exercise, go through the job description. It may take some time, but slice and dice those JDs, job descriptions, and pull out those keywords that are synonymous or similar across all the different roles that you've pulled. And so doing that is conditioning your mind to what is like industry norm, what you may need to acclimatize yourself to. And so you're kind of like reframing your thinking. So one thing it does is shows you any gaps that you may have in your skills and where you might need to up level. But a lot of times too, it'll show you, okay, I may not have done or used this software, but I've used similar softwares. So how can I see this as the industry norm? How can I package myself in a way that presents well? So I always recommend doing that little exercise. It'll start like realigning your mind to like what good looks like. And that's one way to kind of push yourself above the competition as well too. So yeah, packaging yourself, agility, scrappiness. Don't disdain the small beginnings because I'm telling you, like they can take you really far too. So
Anna, before you go, Carolina in the chat said when she hears JD, she automatically thinks Juris Doctor. I thought the same thing. So when I got into recruiting, my mentor Danita, she kept saying JD, and I'm thinking they have Juris Doctors. And then all of a sudden she was like job description. I was like, oh, that's what that means. I didn't tell her that's what I thought, but I just thought that was funny. Okay, go ahead.
That's a good point. I know when I first met Shania, I was like, I want to be a JD too. So maybe one day. Still working on that. But with that term, also it also affects how you show up. Like we all know that we can get scrappy, that we're ready to work, but make it known. So many times I've had hiring managers that said they have said that I was so impressed by they want to learn. They want to learn. They want to learn. And it was obvious that they want to learn. And it's not like you just get there and you're like sleep deprived. You're like really sad. And it's like taking so much to pull words out of you. If you're like there, you're present, a little bit of a smile, a little bit of happiness, excitement, and like you're ready to learn, that also sets you apart. Because you'd be surprised how many candidates interview and it's monotone. I don't even know if they really want to be here today. So that's another one.
Good point. So I knew this question was coming when Kayla mentioned that she hired the person with 1 year of experience. I knew it was coming, so I'm putting it up anyway. So did the person with 1 year of experience meet all the minimum qualifications? And they posted this a few days ago, not to apply for roles that you don't meet 100% of the qualifications for. I said, somebody gonna say it. So let's put it up. I struggle with this because I look for roles that I can learn a new skill. And oftentimes I don't meet all the requirements. I was taught to leave room to grow.
To answer your question, yes, they did meet all of the qualifications because I
I was
cannot move
really
them
hoping
forward
you say
without it.
yes. Dry comment. The back of my mind was like, Kayla, please say yes.
It was a learning position. So basically, I'm teaching you how to be a recruiter from the ground up. So essentially that role was that. So basically I was looking for work experience within 2 to 3 years work experience, but you did not have to have that year of you didn't have to have 3 years of recruiter experience.
So I want to go. There's another question that is similar to this question. Okay, here it goes. But how do we determine based on the JD what experience a recruiter considers to be a requirement?
So I know from mine, and I've made this change when I came to my organization, I make them have minimum requirements, and that's the requirement that you have to meet. And there's others that I'll say preferred. So that's the words that we use. So I would definitely say there's a difference between the two. And the same thing when we say requirements, right? I was like, if there's a list of 6 things we would like, and you don't meet all 6, or you meet one of those, as long as it's not the minimum requirement, apply for the job, right? But if it says you need a bachelor's degree and 1 year of experience, like a previous role, if you don't have a bachelor's degree in 1 year, I wouldn't apply. Just don't waste your time. So
another question that popped up was, thought it was really good. Don't want to lose it. Will recruiters look at a candidate's personal social media pages to determine employment?
No.
We're not supposed to. We're not supposed to.
You run into legal challenges when you do that.
Yeah, we're not supposed to. Go ahead, Isobel.
Well, I was going to say, so I know I have worked in organizations where they will, part of their background check is just to run kind of like a social check. So with that, they're more so using a system or a third party platform to do that. And they're really just kind of scanning for any problematic type of statements or any extremist type of comments you may have made some years back that insinuate you have different agendas. But I mean, we don't look at social media as child. Now, I will say, I have connected with candidates and just established personal relationships. I remember this one girl, she had a hair company. And at the time, I was really big into bundles and NSO-ins and stuff. This is so off topic. And so I actually did follow her on Instagram, but that was so rare. I try not to follow my candidates. I keep that separate. So yeah, we don't.
So I'll say this really quick. So I don't look at social media, but I will say that hiring managers sometimes do. So I think about one candidate, the hiring manager just Googled them, and above the fold, something came up that was extremely concerning. So we had to go back, and I addressed that with the candidate, right? Hey, if you know this is going to come up, you need to be upfront with that. And so I would definitely say for those individuals, Google yourself. On a regular basis. I also just will be completely transparent. I have a Google alert for myself. Anytime the words Danielle J Davis come up, I get a notification for it. Now, I'm really glad that I do that because there's another young lady named Danielle Davis that she's doing the most right now. She's on trial for all kinds of things. And I'm like, that's why I use my middle initial. So I also keep in mind, right? If your name is common, you want to make sure photo, picture, something, and then use your middle initial. So that way people don't get too confused.
Yeah, somebody in the comments, Nicole, and she said that she had a hiring manager look at hers during an interview. Very awkward. So yeah, I think from a hiring manager standpoint, a lot of the work we do with hiring managers is really educating them and coaching them on what best practices are in a talent or in a recruiting process. A lot of times they just go off rip and do what they want to do. And so we gotta reel them back in. I've had a lot of hiring managers go off script, and I'm like, you cannot do that. You cannot say that. What is the matter with you? So I apologize, Nicole. I don't think any recruiter will ever do that to you. So.
Yeah, we are genuinely your advocates when we are talking to the hiring managers. When we're in the debriefs, we have to make sure they stay compliant, meaning they have to talk about the skills that you either have and or lack of whether they want to move forward or whether they don't want to move forward. We 100% make sure they stay off your personality because that can be seen as bias. So trust me, we are the recruiters who are speaking up for you because we're supposed to. And we're actually in those rooms talking and asking questions about how the interviews went if we weren't privy to the actual interview themselves. One more question, and then we're going to go to live questions. So y'all flood the chat with your questions, and we're going to get through as many of them as possible. In my boot camp, I worked on projects that offer solutions to real world business challenges. Do these projects hold any value with prospective employers, and are they acceptable as experience?
Yes, absolutely. Project work is extremely valuable. I think recruiters and hiring managers and the world is just very aware of this big move and this trending line towards boot camps and certifications as opposed to like getting formal degrees right now. And that's, your personal decision. But again, people want to know that you know what you're doing, you can do the job, and you can drive impact. And so it's all about how you package it. I will say, and I'd love to get everyone else's feedback to this. Every person is different. Every hiring manager is different in terms of what they look for. I know the natural thought may be to place formal work experience over project work, but I think there is a lot of added value, especially if you're providing solutions and acting as sort of a consultant to an actual company. If you've done this in like a master's program or and the thing too is like when you're working with these actual companies, if you have the opportunity to pitch for them, like just a side note, like establish those relationships then with whoever you're partnering with. But I think it's extremely valuable. And if anything, what you can really get out of it is the technical skill set that you're listing on your resume or your LinkedIn. So really like optimizing your LinkedIn to have those keywords if it's like working with sales or Salesforce, CRM, Python, Tableau, et cetera, et cetera. You can have those like quick call outs. And a lot of times when we're sourcing, when we're looking for talent, we're really looking for the technical skill sets. And like, of course, too, we'll look for some of those soft skills, but a lot of that is determined in the job interview. But if you use your project experience for anything, definitely pull out all the technical skill sets, the tools, the platforms that you've worked with in the past. I think it's extremely valuable.
Love that. Okay. Live questions. So I want to go to this one first because I see this happen a lot in my current role. Even though I've selected the autofill option with my resume, the system still prompts me to manually enter my experience. Does it have an impact if I choose not to enter the information in that section? That is very annoying. I understand. From a candidate's perspective, I used to be like, oh my gosh, it's going to take me forever to like either copy and paste or manually type all the stuff that's on my resume. But being a recruiter, here's why I see why that's important. There are times when a candidate will use fancy templates and like pictures and all kinds of things that are like animations, and you would be surprised at some of the resumes we see, and even selfies. I.e., y'all, please take the selfies off your resume. Just real quick plug. Don't put them on your resume. Take them off. I've seen bathroom selfies. Not attractive. Take them off. So the reason why that part is important is because there are times when the resume template that you choose isn't compatible with the applicant tracking system that you're using. So if you upload your resume and it's not compatible, meaning you've used some type of fancy template and you just didn't use you just didn't type it out in a simple way, your words on our end can show up like this. And your letters can show up like this, which means we can't read it. Or sometimes it'll show up in like a whole nother language and we can't read it. So if you put in your stuff manually, we can go from the manual part that you put in to see if you meet the minimum qualifications for the role. I've had that happen quite a few times in the resumes that I look over now. So if you bypass that, and because I also have people who bypass it, I can't read their resume, so I don't know if they meet 100% of the required qualifications, and I have to move on. So I would say not to bypass that. I know it's annoying, I know it's frustrating, but there is a reason why you have to put in manually input your stuff.
Shanae, can I add to that real quick? It's a little bit on the same topic. So the other piece with that, yes, is annoying. But if a job requires you to have a cover letter and a resume, there's a space that says cover letter, there's a space that says resume. Please do not upload your resume twice. Don't do that. It's a waste of time, right? I was like, I'm at this point in time, I'm like, oh, you might have made a mistake, but then I'm now concerned because if you're trying to put your best foot forward and you make this mistake on the first end, like I'm concerned. So I just want to put that out there. It's like maybe they'll give me an opportunity, especially for my nonprofits. They need to see the mission and they want to make sure that it aligns. Maybe for tech, I know they don't require it because it's different, but I'm like for the nonprofit piece and the education piece, we care about those cover letters and they want to see them.
Yeah, higher education really wants to see cover letters. That's where you will want to use cover letters the most. I've had hiring managers say, I like this person and I like this person. This person may be my number 2, but I'm going to hire this person because they actually took the time to write the cover letter. And this person didn't. Like I couldn't believe it. I actually had hiring managers that could tell who is going to go the extra mile in this position because they went the extra mile here. Now the cover letter wasn't necessarily required in the system, but it does give you the option to do it. If you have an option, honestly, I would say to upload as much stuff as you can. I've uploaded resumes, cover letters, my degree. Like I've uploaded so many things if it gives me the option to do so. I would rather you have more information than you need than not to have enough. Nicole,
sorry, really quick thing. I know that there are a lot of plugins that exist as well, that like extensions that you can add to your browser. I've seen a couple for like autofilling. I personally haven't used them, but I've heard good things. So that might be something you want to play around with if it helps to reduce the amount of time you're spending on the application process. So, yeah.
Nicole asked, a recruiter reached out to me via email today, invited me to do a pre-screen tomorrow. I verified the legitimacy, but I didn't apply for the role. Should I approach it the same way as if I did? I'm going to assume as if I did apply for the role. Meaning if I applied, I would have prepared. Hopefully that makes sense what I'm asking. Thank you. So I'm going to answer this way. Shouldn't I say it nice? There are many times, and here's why I have to preface with I'm trying to say this nicely because I'm genuine in what I say, and sometimes I understand that my passion can come off as like, why you ain't have to say it like that. So I'm trying to work on it. So there are many times when I will post a position, and I will give you instructions on what to do, and I will explicitly say, here's a role. I am the recruiter. Apply. Then send me a DM to tell me that you applied. Number 3, apply. Like I'll say it twice and I'll get DMs and it'll say, I'm interested in the role that you posted. And I'll go, did you apply? And they'll say no. And I'll go, I would literally be behind my computer. Like, what am I supposed to do with an interest? like, what am I supposed to do with that? So I asked that because on the flip side of what Nicole is asking is the recruiter reached out to her to be pre-screened. Mm-hmm. I would apply either way because you don't want the recruiter to have to wait for you. Because if the hiring manager starts to speed up the process and surprises the recruiter, we love when hiring managers speed up. But if they speed up and we're surprised that they've sped up, and we don't want to have to wait for you to apply to then move forward. So it technically is not official until you apply to the role. So I would 100% apply first because it shows that you are prepared, even if this recruiter reached out to you first. But y'all, apply to the role, then show your interest, please, because there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do with an interest because, and part of that goes back to what Isobel said. We don't always have time to talk to every single person who wants to know more about the position before they decide to apply. We can't tell you how many messages we get. We get hundreds of messages like that. That means we would never get our jobs done. So it makes it easier if you apply first. And then if you get to the pre-screen part and you want to ask more questions, that's okay. But I would just say apply first. It just makes our process a lot easier. It may not be ideal for you, and I get it, but it just makes our work a lot easier. Somebody just came off mute.
Yeah, I was gonna add for Nicole. That's the first thing I thought. Like, my goodness, the anxiety or the nerves of seeing that it's tomorrow. So we understand that and we feel that, and that's probably not ideal. But again, think it might be a hiring manager behind that that's requiring them to move very fast. So just be prepared the same way, especially if it's a job that you do like.
Absolutely. Okay, next question. We got 15 minutes. How should one go about a situation where the recruiter reached out to connect and fill a role within their company? However, they're being very tight-lipped about compensation, perks, and the role. Should I continue with the process even if it feels a little sketchy? Why are we all tight-lipped? So, okay, there is a reason why we are tight-lipped. So Danielle went like this, Kayla went like this, Isobel just went like went like that. Okay, so there is a reason why we are tight-lipped at certain parts of the process. Here's why. Processes change quite a bit. And there are also times when, depending on how you perform, you could be recommended for another role, which may not be the same salary range as what we give you. And so there are times when if we tell you stuff a little too early when it comes to compensation, then there may be an unrealistic expectation there. Also, on the flip side of that, though, salary transparency is a thing. So most job descriptions should have the salary range listed on the job description anyway. When it comes to perks, they may be tight-lipped because they may have been instructed not to share certain benefits until that person actually knows that they're going to be hired and they've accepted a role. And then they also may be sketchy or tight-lipped about the role because they may not know what the day-to-day is in that role. They may understand what the hiring manager is looking for. But for those of us who don't necessarily work in the actual team or the actual business, it is difficult to explain what the day-to-day is like if we've asked the hiring manager what the day-to-day is like and they haven't given us anything over what the job description already explains. Hope that answers your question, Terry.
I also see it at the higher levels, and there may be situations, and depending on the company, where there is a person that is currently in the role that does not know that their role will be coming available soon. So that is another option as to why individuals have to be very tight-lipped about it.
They about to get booted. And I have no idea.
Yeah, that's tough. I'll also say too, I really pride myself on advocating for candidates, and I like to be very transparent from the beginning. However, I've worked in different organizations that have different processes and policies around how compensation is shared. So if it could just be company policy. Some companies say we do not share this information. Again, to Shanae's point, there is pay transparency and there actually is legality around this stuff. So certain states, you have to provide that information. And so it's us trying to abide to certain nuances that exist within the company, while also still determining based off of your experience if you would fall within the compensation framework too. It's a game we're trying to balance and play, and we certainly don't want to waste anybody's time. The last thing we want is to go all the way to the end of the process and then we can't get you to sign back because we can't afford you. I mean, it's a waste of everyone's time, and that is not ideal. So yeah, just bear with the recruiter. If you're really not filling the role too, I mean, okay, it's not
Tell us.
Yeah.
It's better, like she said, it's better we know in advance because honestly, when we get to the offer, we need to close you so we can get that higher. So that really at that point is what we care about. And if we can have transparent conversations early on and you ain't really feeling it, let us know so we can move on because we trying to get that number.
Yeah.
I'll add this too real quick. So if there is, and I'll speak only for California companies, and then also higher education and nonprofits. If there is a range, that's the range for a reason. Please don't ask outside of that range. And again, I'll just speak for those three. I know tech sometimes it's a little bit different, but if the range is
Artiaga is not. FYI, you know who I work for. Artiaga is not. It is what it is.
Right. So I was like, so if it says 90 to 100, please don't be like, I was thinking 120. Did you see it posted? I'm just curious. I'm just trying to figure out what was there clear when it was. So don't waste our time or yours.
Very good stuff. Okay. Next question. Can a candidate with 2 years of experience apply for a position that requires 4 years of experience? Would an applicant tracking system automatically reject such applications despite the applicant's eagerness to learn and grow? So, goes back to my post. So, okay. I am the recruiter who will never encourage you to apply to a position if you do not meet 100% of the required qualifications. The required qualifications are the base level qualifications that you have to meet. You do not have to meet all, if any of the preferred or nice to haves. If you see something that says nice to have, that means that you don't necessarily have to meet them. If you see something that says required, it means it's a requirement. The reason why I say I don't encourage it is because there are plenty of times when people will be hired based on them meeting 70 or 80% of the required qualifications. It doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't happen. What that means is if a company decides to hire someone and they don't meet 100% of the required qualifications, and the person who actually meets 100% of the required qualifications finds out and they have an attitude about it, it takes that one person to sue the company and to actually explain they meet 100% of the required qualifications. What that then says is that means the recruiter and anybody who touched that requisition is on the hook to answer why was this person hired over that person, because it gives some type of discrimination, bias. It kind of gives rise to that. And I've heard people argue me down about this, and I've heard people say it won't hold up in court. OFCCP laws tell us that we have to follow the OFCCP laws. So if there are certain laws put in place that we have to follow, then we have to follow them. It does not mean that it doesn't happen where you can be hired if you don't meet 100% of those required qualifications. It just means that there is a liability attached to that. Does it always happen where someone sues a company? No, but it is a liability attached to it. So I'm never going to encourage you to apply for something that you don't meet 100% of the required qualifications for, because I also don't want to set you up for failure. Like if I know you don't meet 100% of those required qualifications and you get a rejection letter, that's my fault because I told you to apply for it. And I don't want your confidence to be taking a hit because I keep telling you to apply to stuff that you really don't qualify for. Now, when you read a job description, there is a difference between, say, for example, bachelor's degree and 2 years of experience in this. At the bottom of that, it may say or equivalent experience. That or equivalent experience language means you don't necessarily need a bachelor's degree, but that equivalent experience may mean if you don't have a bachelor's degree, you may need 4 years plus the 2 years that they're asking for, which is 6 years put together. So I would get with a career coach or a recruiter that you absolutely trust that can help you break down what it means to actually meet the required qualifications and what the nuances mean when it comes to and or, because those two words and or are very important when you're reading the job description. I said a lot. Anybody else? Very good. Okay. Next question. We got 6 minutes. If you have a lot of different technologies that you've worked with, how do I check that box off for experience when I have too many different skills / technologies to list?
So I guess in response to this in particular, first of all, the companies that you're applying to, some of them have preferred technologies. So for example, Python is a big one at certain companies. So if you have the most experience in Python, use that. But I would use the technologies that you have the most experience in, because if you can't speak to some of the smaller ones that you do not have experience in, then you probably shouldn't have it on your resume to begin with. So definitely focus and hone in on the ones that you have the most experience on. And also when you're applying to these companies, recognize which technologies are their choice of preference.
Got it. Okay, next question. How do you clearly show that you meet the minimum qualifications in your resume without taking up too much space? That's a good question. I'll start. I would focus on your hard skills. So there are a lot of soft skills that you don't necessarily have to put because they're a given. So like communication, leadership, multitasking, um, stuff like that, you don't necessarily have to put like in your skill section, or even put like those words inside of the job responsibilities, because based on what you explain, it's clear that you know how to communicate, or it's clear that you were a leader in some way. So I would focus more on your hard skills, and I would also focus on whether you are saying stuff but you're doing it in a redundant way, or a repetitive way. So if you're saying that you have project management and project experience, or product management or program management and program leadership, those are one and the same. So I would make sure you're not repeating yourself, because I understand that people just want to throw stuff on their resume to make sure that they're putting everything on there because they don't want to miss anything. But if you know that something sounds the same, then take whatever sounds the same off, so it'll kind of lessen what you put on your resume. Also, I give everyone this advice: whenever you are writing out your resume, number one, it's okay for your resume to be more than one page. I don't understand why people tell people that, because if you only have a resume that's one page and you smash it together, the recruiter don't want to read a smashed together resume. It looked like too much words. So it's okay to go and bleed into the second page. I would not tell you how long my resume is. I'm ashamed, but it'll bleed into the second page, and that's okay. I would say, I always tell people to make sure that when you're explaining certain things, do like 4 to 6 bullet points at most. The first 4 bullet points should be the absolute hardest of skills that you've had at that role, at that job, that made a difference at that job. Based on what you listed in your first 4, your last 2 should be the accomplishments that you listed based on the first 4. So it'll tell a story without as you're submitting your resume, without the hiring manager having to ask. So that's how I would be clear, and it'll help you minimize. So I will write out everything, all of the important things that you've done at your jobs, and then take the 4 most important things that you know you can quantify that's going to make a difference, and put that on your resume. I have a resume writer, or a few resume writers that I trust that can help you with that. So send me a DM, and I will send you their links. Okay, 2 more questions, then we got to go. How do you go about finding a mentor within your career field or position that you're looking for?
So I think this one, I may or may not be on my 3rd career. So listen, if it don't work for you, you gotta be afraid. Don't be afraid. Right. And so I would definitely say, try to find, there are always LinkedIn groups, Facebook groups. I'm going to shout out right now, Black in HR, for example, for me. And so I joined those groups, and you'll literally find your tribe and your people. Right. And so reaching out to, you see someone who they be always posting, or you see a position that they have that you want at some point, and you reach out to them and say, hey, can I do, a 20-minute interview with you? And I've done that with like 4 or 5 early in my recruiting career. And you'd be surprised. People love to brag on themselves, right? They did amazing work. They love their position. Baby, they're going to tell you how they got there, right? And so I would definitely say, do that. Don't be afraid to reach out. Some people may or may not respond back to you. Don't take it personal. Move on to the next person, right? There's 13,000 VPs of HR, right? I was like, who are doing what you want to do. So I would say those are some examples. The other thing too is follow up with them. So this is the networking piece. Don't let it be just literally one-sided. Again, like if they do something, repost. Hey, how can I help you today? Is there anything you need? How can I support you in something, right? And so that way it's not just I, me. It's how do I give back?
Got it. Last question. And I think this is really good. Can you give tips on how to avoid fake jobs? Go ahead, Isabel.
I don't, I want somebody else to answer this. I think for me, it would be obvious. I would be curious to know the types of experiences people are having. So I don't want to like expound and make this go over what the time we've allotted. But
well, I can tell you some of the things that I've actually seen. So okay. I had somebody email me an actual offer letter that they got, had like letterhead on it and everything. Interestingly enough, the company is like 10 minutes from my house. So I knew exactly what the company was. And so like literally like laid out the offer and all of that. So my first question to him was, did you have an interview? He said no. It's like, well, that might be fake. Um, then when I actually looked at the actual letterhead, the letterhead looked like it was copy and pasted. Like you could tell when someone created a fake letterhead. Like if the graphic designer just ain't good, you could tell when they copied and pasted it. So that was one example. Another example was this one was a hard one. I know someone who actually like applied to a job. They went through all of their interviews, got to the offer stage, and then realized that the position wasn't real. Um, and that would have been difficult to figure out if the position was real because it actually showed up on the official website. So so I've heard many stories like that. I've even heard stories where somebody will ask for somebody's social security number. um like a recruiter would ask for social security numbers, and recruiters have actually said that their agencies made them ask for social security numbers of their candidates as they're screening them, which I think is weird as shit, but like it's extremely weird.
Don't ever.
But those are some of the examples that I've gotten. Yeah, scammers are out here and they real.
Yeah, they are working overtime. I guess so my response to that would be to know as much as possible what a real recruitment process looks like. And I guess to Shanae's point, like they really don't want to work. So it can be hard to determine. I think this is where if something is off with you, obviously you can see that you have a network of recruiters here who would be willing to support. So I would say reach out to one of us, or reach out to a recruiter you've worked with in the past. I, I, I mean, I don't know. I don't really have a direct answer because I'm just kind of blown. That's really wild. But yeah, just cross check along the way. Don't disregard any discerning feelings that may feel as though this is not a good thing. We're all willing to help to dissect.
Yeah, we're definitely willing to be like, send me that so I can look at it, because we can tell when something is fake and when it's not. Okay, y'all. So I'm gonna end here. I don't want to hold up my panelists. So you all are feel free to go. If you can stay, that's totally fine. I'm just gonna be on here for a few more minutes for a commercial break. So a couple things that I wanted to tell y'all. Octoply AI is a platform that you can use to do your job search. Isobel, go ahead and put your link in the chat and put your referral, your discount code in the chat as well. Isobel has a referral link as well as a discount code that is attached to Octoply.ai. And she can keep track of the clicks and all of that. So just make sure that you're using her referral link as you are figuring out how to maximize or optimize an AI platform to help you do your job searching. In addition to that, there is also a free platform called Earn Better. I'm going to put my Earn Better link in the chat as well. Earn Better pretty much it's pretty much a free platform that is going to send you jobs as you are doing other things. Like it'll send you jobs to your email. It won't apply for them for you, but it'll still send you jobs when you're not looking, so that the AI is still working on your behalf. The difference between Earn Better and Octoply is that Octoply is actually sending out job applications for you, where Earn Better is allowing you to kind of do it on your own, but it's asking you if you want them to tailor your resume to the job, or do you want them to just take you directly to the actual platform. So that's one thing. The second thing is there's another AI platform called Sonara.ai. What Sonara will do, and I actually learned this from Instagram. What Sonara will do is it will send 3 jobs a day, send out your applications 3 jobs a day for free. Octoply will send out hundreds. So weigh your options there. So you have many different options that you can use. You can use Octoply.ai. You can use Sonara.ai. And then you can also use Earn Better. And I'm actually about to put my Earn Better link in the chat. Did any of you have any businesses? And Danielle, you mentioned something.
I did. So I started a company, in 2019. And essentially, I am helping individuals earn financial freedom and gain generational wealth. So I've traveled to all colleges and universities across the country, talking to about financial literacy, whether that's budgeting, savings, investing, buying a car, student loans, that type of stuff. So I do that. And then also for those who are saying, I want to know better, I want to be able to retire on time or even just retire or retire early. I also do personal consultations where I create a business plan for you, personal business plan. So that way you can reach your financial goals. So if you're interested in that, definitely reach out to me.
Anyone else?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You go.
I currently volunteer with Boba Talks, so it is a completely free volunteer service. But what I do is you set up a one-on-one kind of conversation, 30 minutes. Is this only for university students, but it will help you with career planning and where the next path is as well.
And I actually recently started doing just a little bit of career coaching on the side. So, really focusing on how to optimize your LinkedIn profile so you can essentially reduce the number of applications you're submitting and increase the number of recruiter emails you're getting. And so, if you're interested in learning more about that, you can DM me on LinkedIn. I'll also drop my Tech is the New Black episode in there where I talk a lot about how to optimize your LinkedIn profile and increase the number of clicks you get.
And I also want to shout out all of these wonderful recruiters on the panel today. Here's why. There are many people who have really big networks and followings that don't know what they're talking about. There are a lot of people who are self-proclaimed experts. And I say this because there are many people who also come into my DMs who say that they've been scammed by people that they've trusted because they have big networks. I've recently had someone say they were scammed out of thousands of dollars. I had another person say they were scammed after buying like a huge bundle of people that she trusted, and never really nothing came of it. I want you to be able to connect with quality experts in the industry, in the business, which is why I bring different recruiters on my lives and inside of my network, because not everybody has a big platform, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they aren't credible, because they are. So please make sure that when you trust people who have big platforms, you can read their receipts, which is why when you go on my LinkedIn, you see all those recommendations. I do that because I want you all to know that I'm not just out here just giving information for followers and impressions and all of that. I actually think I do know what I'm talking about. Where you have other recruiters who may not have big followings, but they are also very much experts in their own right and have been recruiting far longer than myself or someone else who has a big following. So please connect with all of these young ladies as best as possible, because they all have different levels of experience that we can all really pick their brains from. If you go on their LinkedIn's, I specifically asked them not to say who they currently work for, because they are not talking on behalf of their company. They are only talking on behalf of themselves. But if you go on their LinkedIn, you can see who they work for. Please follow their companies, because you also never know if they're hiring. Also, understand what they recruit for so you can understand who to go to when it comes to certain positions. So I have put all of their links in the chat. I will re-put or re-enter some of the Earn Better and Octoply information and Sonara information. But y'all, thank you all so much for coming. I'm not going to hold you all any longer because it is late. So y'all be blessed. Y'all remember, if God is for you, who could be against you? And know that this job market is a beast, but you are too. So understand that because it may be hard right now, it won't always be hard. You were hearing it from someone who was a candidate for 4 freaking years. So I understand how you feel. Just know that all of us at a certain point, we were candidates. Yeah. So we understand how you feel. Doesn't necessarily mean we can always help in the moment, because we didn't always get help in the moment either. But just know we understand how you feel. So give us grace as we are going through our DMs. I'm sure y'all probably blew up all of these panelists. So give them grace as they go through their DMs to answer your questions, and please connect with them for more gems that they dish out. Y'all have a good night.
Bye. Thank you so much, Shanae.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.